Dr. Leisure here, checking out my buddy Surfer Girl down at McKenna State Park, July 16th, 2008. Surfer Girl and her mate had been in the area for a number of days, and I was just checking around to see what they were up to today. Today, Surfer Girl was by herself and no sign of the mate. She becomes aware of some snorkelers, and of course she has to go over and say hi and see what they're up to. She is not bashful. She'll come up and look in the eye and say hello. She makes the rounds and then looks like she's going to head down the beach and consider hauling out. She cruises down the beach, comes in close to shore, putters along, checks out the situation. Closer to the point, we see the dive boats that have been here previous days. Today, they're not putting divers in the water. NOAA personnel made it quite clear that getting friendly with the seals was not going to be allowed. If NOAA views a seal as too friendly, they will use that as a basis to justify a take. The concept of a take is applied to monk seals in the context of killing one, or perhaps if it drowns by a gill net, or in this case removing the seal and taking it somewhere else. Moving a seal from its known habitat is just as deadly as the other two methods of taking a seal, killing and drowning. Seals that came back after they were moved were just recaptured and then moved again. And in most cases, they didn't come back after that. In fact, they weren't seen again. Watch how this seal scopes things out here and how it pulls itself up onto the rocks to get out of the pond with nothing more than its chin and its stomach muscles. Can you believe that? Note that its flippers don't seem to play a significant part in this process. I was really astounded when I watched this a few times. Surfer Girl relaxed here for a few minutes, and then she decided that she wanted to move further up the beach or up the rocks, and proceeded to do so. Look how she gets along. Can you imagine doing this? Try it. Get down on your stomach and work like a little inchworm and propel yourself across the floor I imagine it would do great things for your abs. Maybe we've come up with something here. We'll call it the monk seal physical abdomen therapy. Well, something like that. After a little more time and a little more effort, she resituates herself and gets comfortable. Meanwhile, fishermen are entering the water nearby, preparing to go for a spearfishing expedition, probably unaware of the presence of the seal. Time passes and we catch a glimpse of the dive boat nearby. Looks like they may be getting ready to put divers into the water. Other people come on top and are able to observe the seal from above. On the water, a group of kayakers come through, and apparently they're aware of the seal, and they zip around into a cove, and apparently they can see the seal from that position. So they stop and watch it for a while. Meanwhile, our spear fisherman is observed climbing out of the water just beyond the seal on the point, and by golly, he's got something. He's got a fairly nice looking specimen of a fish. Not being very good at fish identification, I won't even attempt it. I was glad I had the camera running and thought this might make a very interesting episode. So we see what happens with a fisherman and his fish and a monk seal. I had no idea how this was going to unfold, and I watched with some interest to see what was going to happen. And you're in the same position. You don't know what's going to happen either. Now there he is, the man's washing his fish off in this pond. I don't really think he knows the seal is there at this point. What do you think? At this point, I don't think the seal knows the fisherman is there. But as you can see, that changes immediately. The seal looks up, then turns back and scratches its nose, and then goes back to its snooze modality. Apparently the seal was not in the mood for a fresh fish dinner and decided to pass it up and went back to sleep. But what's going to happen? I think the fisherman knows that the seal is there. Oh, now he's just discovered that he can't get out of there without walking by the seal. The seal is right in his way. He has to formulate another plan. The fisherman recognizes that he can't leave by walking by the seal. He hasn't quite figured out what he's going to do, so he walks back to the point to ponder his next move for a while. Meanwhile, the monk seal continues to snooze and is apparently unconcerned and not interested in the fish or the fisherman. Eventually, the fisherman realizes that the only way out is for him to enter the water, which he does, and he swims back to where he entered the water, and is next seen climbing out with his fish. I learned a couple of days later that Surfer Girl and her mate took a couple of fish from these very same fishermen a few days before. That's the story of Surfer Girl and the fisherman.